introductory remarks. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much, Simon, for outlining the priorities for action. I appreciate that you are the one under the heaviest demand here, so I'm free to leave any time and we'll continue. And of course, you are adequately represented here, and any outcomes of this discussion will be shared with you. But let me just share reflections based on what Simon started us with. Identifying gaps of knowledge, of capacity, of what should be done when it comes to incentives and in finance, had developed a great deal given the partnership that we have been having as climate champion with our teams and those who are heavily involved in identifying the gaps and counting the beans. However, what should really be done to bridge these gaps remain the big challenge. And on the positive side, this could be so far called not just the COP of the GST, but the COP of the funds, from the loss and damage fund with the successful operationalization of it in the first sessions and the first day, unprecedented. Everybody coming here was expecting that this would be one of those last minute announcements, but we had a great start by building on the recommendations of the transitional committee and started as well to mobilize funding for the operationalization of the fund. And here is not just having a fund with adequate funding, that's going to be a journey, but basically the kind of dynamics and dialogue that will be coming out from establishing loss and damage fund. Instead of considering it as a last resort, that could be a kind of a wake-up call for us to start to realize how bad we were doing in the mitigation and adaptation fronts, to the extent that we are being pushed into that sad corner of losses and damaging and trying to provide support to those who have been impacted, and never the compensation. And I know that people don't like the word, never the support will be adequate to the kind of damage and loss that have occurred. And that kind of dynamic, I think we need to focus on, and how to be helpful, especially from the non-state actor side. I was very happy yesterday when the insurance sector in particular was highlighted strongly in many of the meetings. In the first meeting moderated by Razan on adaptation, the one I did with the heads of state like hers, but on means of implementation and in the mitigation front, the insurance sector was mentioned in different ways in identification of risks and assessing damages and what could be done. The other fund, of course, the big announcement of the $30 billion with ambitions to reach 250 billion as announced by His Highness Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed. And this is telling us something about what can countries do in order to fill the huge gaps of funds that we're aware of, based on that famous report, I hope by now, prepared by Nick Stern and Vera Sondwi from last year, and now we have the update for this year, confirming the figures. And the good thing is that the G20 reports by Larry Summers and Professor Singh are confirming that, but putting that in the bigger context of what's needed to be done in debt management and financing the SDGs approach. But that was a good announcement of the second day. The third fund was yesterday, the Green Climate Fund, with the great news, and many thanks to you, Simon, for the excellent support and the networking behind the scene that you have been doing as a facilitator of this fund. I'm aware of what you did, what people may know, that you attended many meetings, you sent the videos, but what people may not know, the many calls and many engagement that we had with many countries that really, with all due respect to the dynamics of decision making, I was even thinking that we should be lobbying some particular country that had been in the leadership of offering pledges and implementing them, and we're still waiting for one of them. But anyways, without putting anyone under embarrassing pressure, we need to celebrate the fact today that we reached the target. And I can quote, as a facilitator, of course, official announcements will come from Mahmoud Moheldin, that we have a successful replenishment as far as pledges are concerned. Here, again, mindful to my words, now one needs to be a bit diplomatic, but I can quote safely our Secretary General of the UN when he warned us all against shady pledges. I'm assuming that all pledges are going to be honored, committed, delivered in time, and that is going to be a very important transformation for the future of finance, especially for low-income countries in adaptation. And we know that the Green Climate Fund is setting an example by adhering to the rules of engagement as providing 50% of its finance leverage to adaptation, equally to mitigation. Then we have the following issues. Then, if it is all about finance, we know that we've been talking millions and billions, and the gaps are $2.4 trillion. 1.4 trillion should be mobilized from within the borders of each developing economy. 1.4. This means what? Means a different look on how we design budgets. Issues related to subsidies, especially going to fossil fuel. We know from the IMF statistics that we spent during the last 2 years more than ever before in fossil fuel subsidies. On average, globally, we were providing 5% of subsidies. Now it's 7% after the war in the Ukraine. So this is $7 trillion. This is multiples of the gaps that I've been talking about. So that needs to be bridged. And what we should really be doing in the private sector side at the domestic level and to mobilize external finance on the FDI, there is another effort. I like to alert as well to your attention the report by the Center for Global Adaptation. It's good that you are here with the joint report with the CPI that is allowing us to understand more that these figures could be disguised under these kind of generic definitions, but when you go deeper, you will see a great deal of discrepancy and lack of focus that we are requiring to provide to developing economies and emerging markets. Finally, it's not just about finance. There is a technology gap. R&D is required and production at scale with capacity in order to deal with these issues of concern, either on mitigation and adaptation, and in what way we can be helpful in this. And the very final part is basically about incentives and the regulatory frameworks that should be implemented, including integrity. And yesterday, we had an update from Sarah and Bing on what they are doing and with their ambitious plan, building on the report by Minister McKenna and her team. So, great deal of work waiting for us, but here we are with you. You are on the top of these matters at global, regional, national, and local levels in your different domains, and we are happy to listen to your advice, your priorities, and potential partnerships with the champions going forward. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Dr. Moheldin. So now